When I saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, my entire world shattered into a million pieces. I was 19 years old, sitting on the cold bathroom floor of my parents' house, and I knew in that instant that nothing would ever be the same again. My hands trembled as I held that little plastic stick, watching those lines grow darker, more certain, more real. I was pregnant and I was completely alone, Marcus, and I had been together for 2 years. He was my first real love, the person I thought I would spend forever with. We had talked about our future, about traveling the world together, about getting married someday when we were ready, but we had never talked about this. We had never talked about a baby coming when we were barely adults ourselves. I remember the exact moment I told him. We were sitting in his car outside the movie theater, and I could barely get the words out. "Marcus, I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was the longest silence of my life. I watched his face change from confusion to shock to something I had never seen before. Fear, pure, unfiltered fear. "How do you know it's mine?" The words came out like knives, each syllable cut deeper than the last. I felt my heart physically breaking inside my chest. After 2 years together, after all the promises and dreams we had shared, this was his first response. Not concern for me, not worry about our future, but doubt. Accusation, rejection. "Marcus, we've been together for 2 years. You're the only person I've ever been with." My voice was shaking, tears streaming down my face, but he was already pulling away from me, physically and emotionally. I could see him building walls in real time, shutting me out of his life. "I can't do this, Sarah. I'm 20 years old. I have my whole life ahead of me. I'm not ready to be a father." His voice was cold, detached, like he was talking about canceling dinner plans instead of abandoning his own child. "But this is our baby, Marcus. Our responsibility. We created this life together." I was begging now, my dignity completely gone. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away as if my touch burned him. "No," he said with a finality that made my blood run cold. "This is your problem. You deal with it however you want, but leave me out of it. I have college plans. I have a future. I'm not throwing my life away because of one mistake." One mistake. That's what our baby was to him. A mistake, an inconvenience, something to be discarded and forgotten. He drove me home in complete silence, and when I got out of the car, he didn't even look at me. That was the last time I ever saw Marcus Rodriguez. He blocked my number, deleted his social media accounts, and disappeared from my life as if our 2 years together had never existed. But I still had to face my parents. I still had to walk into my house and tell my deeply religious mother and father that their teenage daughter was pregnant and unmarried. I will never forget the look on my mother's face when I told her. It was like watching her heart break in slow motion. "You're what?" My mother's voice was barely a whisper. My father just stared at me with an expression I had never seen before. Disappointment so profound it seemed to age him 10 years in 10 seconds. "I'm pregnant, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I was sobbing uncontrollably, my whole body shaking with the weight of my confession. My father stood up slowly from his chair. His face had gone from shock to something harder, colder. "Where is the father? Where is this boy who did this to you?" "His name is Marcus. He doesn't want anything to do with the baby. He said it's my problem." The explosion that followed is burned into my memory forever. My father's rage, my mother's tears, the accusations and the shame and the horror. But worse than the anger was what came 3 days later. The cold, calculated decision that I was no longer welcome in their home. My mother delivered the news in a voice completely devoid of emotion. "Sarah, your father and I have discussed this extensively. We cannot support your decision to keep this baby. We raised you with values, with morals, with the teachings of our faith. You have brought shame upon this family. If you insist on going through with this pregnancy, you cannot continue to live under our roof." "Mom, please, I'm your daughter. Where am I supposed to go?" I was 19. Working part-time at a grocery store, with barely $300 in my bank account. "You should have thought about that before you opened your legs." My mother's words were like acid. This woman who had tucked me into bed every night as a child, who had kissed my scraped knees and held me through nightmares, was now looking at me like I was garbage. My younger sister Emma stood in the doorway crying, but she said nothing. She was only 16 and still completely dependent on our parents. I couldn't blame her for her silence, but it still hurt to see her standing there, unable or unwilling to defend me. "You have 1 week to find somewhere else to live." My father's voice was final. "And don't bother asking your grandmother or your aunts. We've already told the entire family about your situation. No one will take you in. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it. 1 week." They gave me 1 week to figure out how to survive with a baby growing inside me. No job prospects, no support system, and nowhere to go. I spent those 7 days in a fog of despair, crying until I had no tears left, feeling the weight of total abandonment crushing me from all sides. I called every friend I had, but most of them were still in college, living in dorms or with their own parents. No one could take in a pregnant teenager. I went to social services and filled out applications for emergency housing, but the waiting list was months long. I visited 3 homeless shelters, and each one was full or had restrictions that I didn't meet. On the 6th day, I found a room for rent in a house shared by 4 other people. It was in the worst neighborhood in the city, a tiny space that barely fit a twin bed and a dresser. The walls were stained, the carpet was filthy, and I could hear everything that happened in the rooms next to mine. But it was $350 a month, and it was all I could afford. I paid my first month's rent with the last of my savings and moved in with a single suitcase of clothes. That first night alone in that terrible room, lying on a mattress that smelled like mildew, feeling my baby flutter inside me for the first time, I made myself a promise. This child would never know poverty the way I was experiencing it now. This baby would never feel abandoned the way I felt abandoned. I would work harder than anyone had ever worked. I would sacrifice everything I had to give my daughter a better life. I didn't even know yet that I was having a daughter, but somehow I knew. I knew in my bones that I was carrying a little girl, and I was already fiercely, desperately in love with her. The pregnancy was the hardest 9 months of my life. I worked 40 hours a week at the grocery store, standing on my swollen feet for 8-hour shifts, scanning items until my hands cramped. I took every extra shift I could get, working holidays and weekends while other girls my age were at parties and living their lives. The other cashiers whispered about me. I could see them looking at my growing belly, doing the math in their heads, judging me. Young, alone, obviously struggling. I became invisible to most people and a spectacle to others. Customers would ask intrusive questions. Where's the father? Are you keeping it? Aren't you a little young? Each question was a small violence, a reminder of everything I had lost. I had no money for maternity clothes, so I wore Marcus's old sweatshirts that I had kept, stretching them over my expanding belly. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches because that's all I could afford after paying rent and saving every possible penny for the baby. I gained only 18 pounds during my entire pregnancy because I was literally starving myself to save money. The prenatal appointments were torture. Sitting in waiting rooms surrounded by happy couples, women with husbands who held their hands and asked the doctor questions and looked at ultrasound images with tears in their eyes. I went to every appointment alone. I heard my baby's heartbeat alone. I saw her tiny form on the ultrasound screen alone. I found out I was having a daughter alone. Struggle and small victories. When Emma was 6 months old, I got a promotion to assistant manager at the grocery store. It came with a 50-cent raise and more hours, which meant more money but also more time away from my daughter. When she was 1, I moved us into a slightly better apartment in a slightly better neighborhood. It had a real bedroom for her and a tiny kitchen where I could cook actual meals instead of just heating things up. I enrolled in community college when Emma was 2, taking night classes while she slept. I studied business administration because I knew it was practical, marketable, something that could lead to a better job and a better life for us. For 3 years, I worked 40 hours a week, took 4 classes a semester, and raised my daughter. I slept 4 hours a night. I studied while Emma played at the park. I wrote papers during her naps. There were so many moments when I wanted to quit. When Emma got sick and I had to miss work and couldn't afford the missed wages. When my car broke down and I had to choose between fixing it or buying her new shoes because she had outgrown her old ones. When she had her first day of kindergarten and I couldn't be there because I had an exam I couldn't miss. But I didn't quit. I couldn't quit. Every time I looked at Emma, I remembered that I was all she had. No father, no grandparents, no extended family. Just me, and I had to be enough. Emma was 6 years old when I finally graduated from community college. She sat in the audience in her little pink dress, holding a sign she had made herself that said, "I love you, Mommy." When they called my name and I walked across that stage to receive my associate degree, I saw her jump up and cheer, and I broke down crying right there in front of everyone. That degree led to a better job as an office administrator at a small marketing firm. It paid $15 an hour, which felt like a fortune after years of making minimum wage. For the first time since Emma was born, I could pay all my bills on time and still have money left over. We moved again. this time to a 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood with good schools. I bought Emma her first new bike, not a used one from a garage sale. I took her to her first movie in an actual theater. I was able to buy her school supplies without having to count every penny. These tiny luxuries felt like miracles, but I knew it wasn't enough. I wanted Emma to go to college. I wanted her to have opportunities I never had. So I went back to school again, this time for my bachelor's degree. 4 more years of night classes and weekend studying. 4 more years of sacrificing sleep and personal time and any semblance of a social life. Emma was 10 when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business administration. By then, she was old enough to understand what an accomplishment it was. She had watched me study every night. She had seen me cry over difficult exams. She had brought me coffee and encouraged me when I wanted to give up. That bachelor's degree changed everything. I got a job as a marketing coordinator at a large corporation, making $50,000 a year. $50,000. To someone who had once survived on ramen noodles and slept in a room that cost $350 a month, this was unimaginable wealth. For the first time in Emma's life, we weren't just surviving. We were actually living. I could take her on vacation. I could buy her nice clothes. I could put money away for her college fund every single month. I could breathe without the constant weight of financial panic crushing my chest. Emma thrived. She made honor roll every semester. She joined the soccer team and the school choir. She made friends and went to sleepovers and had birthday parties. She was happy, well-adjusted, loved. No one looking at her would ever know the poverty and struggle she had been born into. When Emma was 15, something happened that I never expected. My sister Emma called me for the first time in over a decade. Our mother had died, and the funeral was in 3 days. Did I want to come? I sat with that phone in my hand for a long time, feeling emotions I couldn't even name. Grief for the mother who had abandoned me, anger at the family who had rejected my daughter, but also a strange sense of closure. These people no longer had any power over me. I had survived without them. I had thrived without them. I decided to go to the funeral, and I took Emma with me. I wanted my daughter to see where I came from. I wanted her to understand the strength it took to build our life from nothing. My father looked like he had aged 30 years. My sister was married with 2 children of her own. Extended family members I hadn't seen since I was 19 stared at us with a mixture of curiosity and shame. And my daughter, my beautiful, confident, brilliant 15-year-old daughter, stood beside me with her head held high. My father approached us after the service. He looked at Emma for a long moment, and I saw tears in his eyes. "This is your granddaughter," I said. "Her name is Emma Grace. She's a straight-A student. She plays soccer and sings in the choir. She's kind and smart and everything good in this world." "Sarah," he started, his voice breaking. "I was wrong. We were wrong. We should have never sent you away. We should have helped you." I looked at this man who had once thrown me out of his home when I needed him most, and I felt nothing but pity. "You missed her entire childhood because you were too proud to admit you made a mistake. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, and you will never know her the way I know her." We left that funeral, and I never looked back. Those people lost their chance to be part of our lives, and that was their loss, not ours. Emma is 18 now. She just received a full scholarship to a prestigious university where she will study engineering. My daughter, who was once called a mistake, who was conceived in the back seat of a car by a father who wanted nothing to do with her, who was born into poverty so extreme that I didn't know if we would survive, is going to college completely paid for because of her own merit and intelligence and hard work. Last week, as we were packing up her dorm room supplies, Emma hugged me tight and whispered in my ear, "Mom, you're my hero. Everything I am is because of you. You never gave up on me, even when you had every reason to. I want to make you proud." I held my daughter and cried tears I had been holding back for 19 years. "Baby girl," I told her, "you already have. Every single day of your life, you have made me proud. You are my greatest achievement. You are proof that love is stronger than circumstance, that determination is more powerful than privilege, that one person who refuses to give up can change everything." I am 38 years old now. I am a successful marketing director earning a 6-figure salary. I own my own home. I drive a reliable car. I have savings and investments and a retirement plan. But none of that means anything compared to what I really accomplished. I raised an extraordinary human being against impossible odds. To every young mother who is struggling right now, who is scared and alone and wondering if you can do this, I want you to know something. You can. It will be the hardest thing you ever do. There will be days when you want to quit, when you feel like you're failing, when the world seems designed to break you. But you have strength you don't even know about yet. You have love that will carry you through impossible situations. Your child doesn't need perfect circumstances. They need a parent who refuses to give up. They need someone who will fight for them, even when the fight seems hopeless. They need love, consistency, and an example of resilience. I was 19 years old with nothing, and I built everything. If I can do it, so can you. My name is Sarah, I am a single mother, and I am living proof that your past does not determine your future, that other people's rejection does not define your worth, and that love combined with determination can overcome anything. If you connected with my story, please share your own experiences in the comments. I would love to hear from others who have walked this difficult path, and if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing that someone else survived can give us the strength to keep going. Subscribe to my channel for more stories of resilience, strength, and overcoming impossible odds. There are so many of us out there who have built beautiful lives from broken beginnings. Let's support each other, with love and respect to every parent out there fighting the good fight. Until next time.